to be here and kind of just share with you what I learned. Real quick before we start, Standards of Excellence certification. How many people have that certification here for the nonprofits? I just get an idea. Okay. I really modeled my talk this morning on that certification and the different standards that were present. And I just want to tell you, as a founder, when I first applied for the Standards of Excellence certification back in 2005, we had an operational board, most certainly, because we were doing all the work. We had 2 employees that were full-time and 1 part-time. So I will tell you what we did for that year. Get all the information you can, and think of a use for it later. We gathered resources in so many different areas. But what was unique, I think, that we did is we took all the Standards of Excellence points and we put them into manuals that made us be a more effective organization. And that really today, as we have grown over the last 15 years, have created a culture around the Standards of Excellence program. And that really has been the core values of For Pete's Sake. And I'm really proud of it too. And you know, it's part of the legacy too for myself and our original founders, especially our operational board. We put this in place. And we know that when we're not here anymore, these standards and what I'm going to share with you today in the 6 specific areas will really be the roadmap for Pete's Sake. And it's a roadmap full of integrity, it's a roadmap full of ethics, it's a roadmap focused on a mission of helping people. And that is really the most important aspect of running our nonprofit. So here we are, we're all by ourselves. I will tell you, when I started For Pete's Sake, I didn't have a background in nonprofits at all. I took I quit my job. My first husband, his name was Pete, and unfortunately he passed away with cancer. But I went back to work as an attorney after he died, quit my job, said I'm going to start a nonprofit, and I was sitting there all by myself. Got a great operational board in place. We did phenomenal work. And then we started looking at all these different pieces in 2005 of what we're going to be able to do to build an excellent nonprofit. So the first thing we looked at was our mission. How many people know your mission statement by heart here? No? How many people does your board know your mission statement? And does your board review your mission statement every single year? Well, you guys are in the standards program, so you do. But one piece, and I ask these questions because this is an important fact. We look at our mission statement every single year. And the board has to look at the mission statement every single year. You need to spend time thinking of where you want to go in a nonprofit. One of the reasons we've been an effective nonprofit is because we have been very, very true to our mission. We could have strayed many times. But we actually have made a conscious decision to say, this is what we're delivering. We're delivering a respitification period. We're not delivering financial aid. We're not, we're not delivering, a cure to cancer. We are delivering an experience of a respitification. So being true to your mission and having your board review your mission, which is in the standards program, has been a critical piece of our success. The second piece to our success in the mission is performance objectives. How many people have objectives here? You're measuring the impact of your program. So they came to me and said, back in 2005, you're going to measure the impact of your program. I said, oh my gosh, I was a math major in college, so we developed quick 3 questions of, does this respite help you cope with cancer? Does it help your caregiver? And does it help your children? That was in 2005. Another standards point, you have to measure the impact of your program with outcome measures. It's now 2015, and we are in the middle of a research project with psychologists who have published, and our goal is to actually publish our results in a paper with experts. So keeping focused on your mission and your outcomes really drives an excellent nonprofit and part of our standards piece. I'm flying through here. Awareness engagement. This is another area. Just show of hands, we're gonna give a quiz. How many times you raised your hand? How many people put their 990s on their on their website? Do they list them? Bright and bold. Awareness and engagement. I actually wanted to just talk about transparency here. Our website, For Pete's Sake, has a fantastic website. We list our 990s, we list our strategic plan, and we're actually going to be listing our scorecard. We're actually redoing our scorecard to make it easily readable by all our constituent bases so that they can actually be part of it. Because as Tom Ahern said, your donors are the ones that make your nonprofit. They're the ones that drive it. And why not share with them, what's happening? And we have found that transparency and being able to put all this on our website, because there's people who are going to be reading it, has been a very, very critical factor. Just to share a story real quick, it was Christmas a couple years ago, and I had got a phone call at home, and it was a man who tracked me down, literally, and wanted to read about us in the newspaper, wanted to give us a substantial donation, several $1,000s. Never knew the man. I actually picked up the phone. My answering machine didn't get it. My kids didn't get it, so that's a good thing. And he said, I'm looking for your financials. And I said, go right to our website. Let me show you exactly where they are. And we received a check for $5,000 in the mail. And that's from someone who simply went to one location. So I really think that you make your donors aware that you have this, and then you engage them, and now he's part of our group. So he's part of our community. So that's the second. The third area is finance. How many people here are on our finance committee? Anyone? Oh yeah, well, Jill's the CFO. She's going to give a presentation after me. You have to keep your eye on the finances. And the PANO Standards of Excellence certification and that whole program really does a tremendous job in helping you to budget, and in helping you to create policies. So just to give you an idea of what we've been able to do with the standards program and what we've adopted is that we have a very, very rigorous budgeting process. We get everyone involved in it. And does anyone remember in 2007 the stock market crashed and things changed? Even in then with that budgeting process, we had a worst case scenario budget. We have okay if we continue budget, and we had a stretch budget. But the piece is really, really look at that committee. Your finance committee is very, very, very critical to your operation. You want them to be your partner walking through this, because if you can't resource your mission, then you're not going to be able to function as a nonprofit. And that's all really the goal, is to really resource that mission. So the finance piece is very critical. Something else we did that has helped our culture is that as you grow, we put in purchasing policies. We never had a purchasing policy. And in the beginning, when I started a nonprofit, I was calling anyone I knew to do anything. But as you grow bigger, you're not going to be able to do that as much. So now, if we make an expenditure of over $3,000, we have to get 3 different quotes. We have to do different pieces to comply with our PANO certification in our standards. So that's another piece just in the finance area that's really, really, really critical for us. The fourth area that the PANO standards looks at is your legal compliance. Now, I was a lawyer, so maybe I eat this stuff up, kind of strange, isn't it? But I really, really enjoy the legal piece of it. But in the legal piece, they have a 40-page checklist that we do every single year. Did you ever believe that there could be a 40-page checklist related to functioning as a nonprofit? But there is. And it covers everything from raffles, it covers everything from board, it covers registration in your states. Here's another just quick question, and you don't have to raise your hand. Have you run your database to see where you collect donations from and in what states and the threshold of that you have? Has anyone, do you guys do that on a yearly basis? Anyone here? Well, the PANO standards, again, reminds us that guess what? We have a responsibility to register with those states that have registration requirements, which are all, and they're all different thresholds, but you really need to compare your database. So what we've done as a nonprofit and in our culture is every March we run that database. And we look and we say, what do we need to do? Where do we need to register? And since then we were only registered in Pennsylvania. Now I believe we're registered in 11 states because of those requirements. But again, we would not have probably done that but for the standards and being able to know that we need to keep up with this best practice to make us an effective group. Leadership. This is a good one because we had our speaker yesterday who talked about 15-year board chair. I have a phenomenal board of directors. Like Mike said, I went from an operational board to a strategic board. My board now, if they even delve into operations, we almost ring the bell. Okay, you're done. We are completely a fundraising board and a strategic planning board. They are the 2 areas that we focus on. They're the 2 areas we talk about all the time. But with respect to the leadership, that board evolved because of our PANO standards. And even we just got recertified for the 2nd time this year, we had a couple board members that probably, although that they've given a lot to us, it really wasn't the timing for them to be part of it any longer. And it actually gave us kind of a gut check for all of us to say, all right, where are we going as a board? What it is that we want to do? We have certain compliance issues that we need with the standards program, and we want to make sure that we get there. So the leadership piece was really critical, and what's really nice about the PANO standards is that it's a third party helping you. We had conference calls with board members and with PANO to really kind of work through some pieces of it. But it's a third party that it's not necessarily Marci speaking, because it's always me speaking to the board, but it's someone who has a lot of expertise who's helping us with our peer reviewers as part of the standards program. So the leadership was really, really critical piece. And then just so you know, these are all the areas that standards really look at. And then the last piece is resource development. Now, that is, as I said, you have to resource or nonprofit. And one piece that we've done that I think that probably the most beneficial piece we've extracted from the standards program has been a donor relationship policy. Does anyone have a donor relationship policy here? All right, so how many people raise their hands over 7 times? Well, you guys are cruising that. That's a standards program. The donor relationship policy is something that we have evolved since 2005. Tom Ingram said to us yesterday, know your donor, loverize them. That was his piece. This is your document that sets the culture for your organization to loverize your donor. So what we have in our donor relationship policy is we say, what type of gift we get, who signs the letter, do they get a letter, do they get a phone call, do they get a personal note, does a board member call them, what's the follow-up, what's the next action. And one thing in particular is when you're a small nonprofit, in 2005, we couldn't do everything. But this document, this donor relationship policy related to research development has evolved. Just to give you a quick example, we just hired someone to handle all of our data. We use Razor's Edge. It's, so we have one person who's going to be controlling all of our input, our data input into Razor's Edge. And we had our donor relationship policy had said before, if the gift is under $100 and is part of a community event, we're not required to receipt it, and becomes really cumbersome to receipt it because there's a lot of like $5 checks and $10 checks. Now we looked at our donor relationship policy and we said, you know what, we're going to change that. Everyone's going to get a letter now, and everyone's going to get a signature on a letter. So it's really kind of a breathing document that we look about how we can extend, the loverizing effect to our donors. So this is the last piece. So this is kind of comprises our wheel for our standards. And the pieces that I've brought out to you are just pieces that really drive our culture. It helped us really become, in 2005, a 3-person shop to now we have 11 people and our budget is, $2 million. So it's been a great journey, but it's the vision that we see in running a nonprofit, and it's that vision that we're setting on how we want to run. So I just think, this is our Constitution. This is the framework for our country. And here we are, how many years later, still celebrating this document. I can tell you that the standards for us and what we went through the standards program is really our Constitution for how we want to run a nonprofit. It's our culture. We've taken all the different aspects. We didn't just collect the information, as part of the standards and say, yes, we're complying, or no, we're not complying. We took all of them and we put them in manuals. And those pieces are our culture. That's our legacy. We created our own, and that's our Constitution. And we look at succession planning. I know that when I'm not, for Pete's sake, it will still be the same way. It's because we put all this in place. And trust me, I felt like we were collecting a lot of information. That first slide was like so perfect because my first board, when we first did our standards, I had an attorney friend who ran off 6 binders of policies, and they got delivered to all my board members' doors, and they almost were like, oh my gosh, what is this huge binder with 6 binders in a huge box? But look what it created today. And that's really the best gift. So the standards program, I'm a huge fan of it. I just think it really, really builds your culture of who, what, where, when, why, how you want to do it, and it really sets the legacy, of knowing of the vision that you have, of knowing how you want to operate, and the culture that you actually want to want to maintain, you know, when you're not there. Like, it's really leaving your legacy. It's leaving your imprint on your nonprofit. So I would really strongly suggest, you know, it is from constitutional culture, this is how you build like a nonprofit legacy. And I've really been proud to do it. And I have great colleagues here. I have 2 colleagues. This is my succession plan right here. So I feel really, really blessed. But was that 10 minutes? I was kind of cruising there.
You did a great job.
I was just like, boom, boom, boom.
Does anybody have any questions?